Crazy. HOA Karen illegally claimed part of the community park. Before we dive into this crazy HOA story, take a moment to subscribe and share, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. It's always fun to see how far these stories reach. Now let's get started. It started like any other morning. The sun was shining, kids were running around the street, and neighbors were chatting with each other as usual. But then, the unexpected happened. Karen from the HOA decided that she was going to claim part of the community park right in front of her house. She had been on the HOA board for several years, always pointing out what was acceptable and unacceptable in our neighborhood. But no one expected her to go this far. One morning, we woke up to find a new fence being built right in front of her house, blocking off a section of the park. And if that wasn't enough, there was a huge sign posted right on it that read, "Private HOA property. No entry except for me." Yes, you read that correctly. She thought she owned the park, as if the whole neighborhood was supposed to walk around her little fortress now. But the audacity of it was shocking, especially since the park had been a shared space for years. Children played there, families had picnics, and neighbors used it to meet, talk, and relax together. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke, maybe a prank? But no, Karen wasn't laughing. She was standing on her porch, arms crossed, with that smug look she always had when she felt like she was in control. She had this arrogant attitude, and it was clear she thought this park was now her personal property, like everything else she tried to control. I decided to approach her. "Karen, what is going on here?" I asked, pointing at the newly constructed fence, my voice filled with disbelief. She just shrugged and smirked. "I'm on the HOA board," she said, as if that gave her permission to do whatever she wanted. "That means it's my property now, and if you or anyone else has a problem with it, you can take it up with the HOA." I couldn't believe my eyes. This woman who had been part of the HOA for years had completely lost touch with reality. The community park had always been a shared space for everyone. Kids played there, families gathered there, and it was a symbol of the unity in our neighborhood. Now, Karen had decided to claim it as her personal property. I wasn't going to stand for that. I immediately went back home, grabbed my laptop, and checked the official property records. I wasn't going to let Karen get away with her self-appointed ownership of the park. Sure enough, the park wasn't hers. It was public property, accessible to the entire neighborhood, and Karen had no right to block anyone out or restrict access. I called the real HOA president, who happened to be a reasonable and level-headed guy. When he arrived, I could tell he was just as surprised as the rest of us. He walked straight up to Karen, looked at the fence and then at the sign, shaking his head. "Karen, this is illegal. You need to remove that fence immediately," he said, his voice calm but firm. Karen's face turned bright red with anger. She was used to being the one in control, to throwing her weight around, but now there was no way she could talk her way out of this one. She crossed her arms over her chest and snapped, "I make the rules!" Her voice was sharp and her words hung in the air like a challenge. But the president wasn't having it. He turned to me and nodded. "We'll handle this," he said, and he sent Karen a formal warning right on the spot. The moment that letter went out, I could see the panic creeping into Karen's face. Her power was slipping away. She tried to protest, but it didn't matter. The HOA was taking her down one step at a time. The next week was a whirlwind. We all watched as Karen scrambled to remove the fence she had so confidently built. I'll never forget the sight of her tearing down the sign, clearly trying to save face as the entire neighborhood watched. But that wasn't the end of it. The HOA didn't just let her off the hook. Oh no, they slapped her with a hefty fine for violating community rules. And on top of that, she was ordered to pay for the removal of the fence, including the costs for the legal proceedings. We all couldn't help but talk about it. Karen, the woman who had always tried to push her authority, was now forced to clean up her mess. She had to pay for everything, and no amount of complaining could change that. The look on her face when she received the bill for all of this? Priceless. I'd never seen someone so furious in my life. She spent days grumbling about it, but there was no turning back. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Karen wasn't done yet. She tried to rally back as if she could still somehow get away with it. A few days later, she tried to confront me. Her face was flushed with rage, and her hands were trembling. "You think you won?" she spat, her voice full of venom. "You haven't heard the last of this." She was seething, pacing back and forth, acting like she could still intimidate me, but I wasn't scared. I looked at her with a calm smile. "Karen, if I'm honest, this isn't over for you. The HOA decided, and now you're the one who's on the hook for everything." She didn't say much after that, but her eyes burned with frustration. She had lost. Everyone in the neighborhood knew it, and there was no way she could walk away from this humiliation. But the real fun came when Karen realized that everyone in the neighborhood had seen what she tried to pull. She had humiliated herself in front of all of us. And no matter how much she tried to hide it, we would all remember the day Karen tried to steal the park. Fast forward a few weeks, the neighborhood was buzzing with stories of Karen's failed attempt to take control. The kids were back on the swings, the dogs were running around again, and the park was alive with laughter. But every time Karen walked past, I saw it in her eyes. The frustration, the resentment, the defeat. You see, Karen thought she could control everyone, that she could dictate the terms of the community. But in the end, the community came together to stop her. And though she'll always be Karen, forever trying to push her authority over everyone else, she's learned an important lesson. Not everything can be taken by force. The park was restored, and Karen would never forget the day she tried to steal it. Every time she stepped outside, there it was, our park, our space, something she could never control. And as for me, I'll always smile whenever I pass by the park. I know Karen does too. Every time she sees the kids playing and families enjoying themselves, she has to remember that her attempts at control didn't work. And the best part? She'll never live it down. So, let's hear it for the little victories, for the times we stand up against the Karens of the world. And let's remember, next time someone tries to tell you what's theirs, check the rules. You never know when the tide might turn in your favor. Thanks for watching. After that, Karen kept calling the HOA president with threats over what had happened, and even started threatening me for complaining to him. But in the end, she only made things worse for herself and ruined her own reputation. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss a new HOA nightmare.